Hey, good morning. We're going to get started here momentarily. We're going to give a couple minutes for people to come into the session. Hope everybody's having a good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're going to give it a couple more minutes and let people into the session, and then we'll get started. All right. And everybody got these note takers now. Nobody attends anything. Everybody just sits there note takers or what? That's crazy. But I guess it's a good way to grab notes and stuff. What are your thoughts on that, Raquel? These note takers. Do you do a lot of webinars and stuff?
I've seen them, but I didn't know until just now. I guess you can send them instead of yourself. I've always seen people in the meeting and then their note taker also in the meeting with them.
No, I've seen it where
Note taker automatically comes in. So
oh
if
it
you have a
does?
meeting, if you have a meeting at 9, the note taker is going to get there before you do. So yeah, it's going to automatically do it, whether
Now
whether you really asked it to or not.
if you don't show up, does it stay in the meeting?
Yes, yeah, it's coming on its own without whether you show up or not. It's coming.
I need to look into that.
Is it a
Yeah.
part of the option for Zoom or a separate app?
It's a separate app, but in my opinion, it was just too invasive, and it was driving. It was getting on my nerves. I couldn't. I was getting annoyed. it, it was just everywhere, and it was driving me crazy. So I had to get rid of it. I couldn't do it.
You mean on your when you logged in, your note taker would be there?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
something.
You remember when we had that where everybody had gotten that otter?
Yeah,
Was it last
yeah.
year, year before last, Mark? And they told us to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that something? But yeah, it's showing up for the people do. Yeah. And you're saying it'll take notes without them even having to log in.
Yeah, it's gonna show up whether you show up or not. The note taker is gonna show up for the
Isn't
meeting.
that something? Hey, well, good morning, everyone. We just here chatting about note takers and things like that today. But we're gonna get started here. I'm gonna give you one more minute. I'm gonna start at 9:04. While we're waiting, does anybody have any questions for John or myself or Raquel about what you're going through, anything about small business, anything like that? We want to make sure that these calls are productive for you. So we want to give you an opportunity to ask us any questions you may have or topics that you feel are important that we need. I've done the calendar for the first 12 months, but first 12 weeks, but we have more months coming. And if you have any questions about it, just let me know. Any questions or anything? Eve is here. She's checking us out today. All right, Miss Eve.
Hey, how's it going?
She's on the calendar coming up doing.
She's she's coming up next week.
Oh, she's coming up next week. What's your topic, Eve?
Business taxes. Hi, everyone.
Ooh.
Not a
Did
boo.
you boo her?
I
Did you
just
boo
got a
her?
boo. I just got a boo. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll make sure to make it fun. All right.
Hey, so I tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and get started for the sake of time. Thank you guys for joining. Remember, this is kind of an open conversation. If you have questions of Raquel or anything, just raise your hand. I'll be monitoring the chat. Oh, let me make sure the chat is open for you real quick. I have a tendency to forget that. I'll make sure the chat is open. I prefer that you just unmute and ask your question, but you can look at the chat. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of small business budgeting,
Mm.
and Raquel's going to go through why and how you do that and why it's important. But I'm going to start out here with, you know what? I didn't even share my sound. Oh, I do want to let's see. I had a news update I wanted to share. Um, what would I do with it? Let's see. Oh, here it is. I've been trying to, every week when we come on, I'm trying to make this educational for you. So can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
Yes.
It's white. I don't know. Maybe it's loading.
Oh, you know what? Let me stop sharing and share again. Hold on. I'm gonna share again. Can you see it now?
Yes, we're all set.
Yeah. See, I just want to make you aware, Atlanta, they're trying to get ready for FIFA. Mayor Dickens just announced if you live in the city of Atlanta, they're doing low interest loans, grant program, and support for pop-up vendors for youth entrepreneurship accelerator for 21 and under. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. You need to click on it and read the whole article because these are some of the things that the city is doing to help people get ready for FIFA. But what happens is if you enroll in a lot of these programs and things like that, you get on the list to find out what else is going on if you're interested in doing any business during FIFA. So I'm going to put this in the chat. Any questions about FIFA or anything like that as we get this thing started today? We've been meeting with other organizations that we're trying to find out how we can help small businesses during FIFA. I'm going to put the link for this article in the chat, and I want you to be aware that this is important stuff. So pay attention to anything that you see about small business for FIFA. So today, as I said, we're going to be talking about small business budgeting, and we have Raquel Lindy here to do that. Raquel, you can share your screen now. I stop sharing, but please ask any questions that you have um, about anything that she's talking about because this is really a learning experience for you. You want to make sure you get it.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So today, of course, we're going to be talking about small business budgeting, the importance of small business budgeting, and how to make a business budget, how to do some forecasting for the next year to get your budget together, actual cost budgeting, percent revenue budgeting, and then a budgeting tool that can help you and your business. So this is a little bit about me. Um, I am an enroll agent, and my business is Phoenix Rose Accounting, and I help small business owners with bookkeeping, tax preparation, and things like that. And a small business budget is the financial plan that you set every year, ideally, that will help you come up with how much revenue you're going to need and what your expenses will look like throughout the year to give you a good idea of what you can afford to do in your business and how you can help your business grow. So budgeting is important because it will help you avoid things like overspending, it'll help you set goals, and it will help you get a bigger or a picture of what your business finances are. So a lot of times when we start a business, we can spend a lot of times or a lot of time spending money and not really seeing where that money is going. We don't have a good idea of it because you're just paying for things as they come up. With a budget, you have a better plan of where your resources are going to go, and you can also adjust your budget as the things change, income grows, things like that. So who can create a budget? Anyone in your business can. But initially, I like to say you yourself, the owner of the business, should be the one setting the budget because when you know how to do something, you know what to look for in that area. So as you grow, you can have someone else outsourced accountant, a CFO if you have one. If you're not the CEO, you can have them create it, but your initial budget should always be created either by you or with you heavily involved in the process, because it just allows you, again, to understand where the numbers are coming from. And then there are two main types of budget. So there's an actual cost method and then a percent method, which we'll talk about later. And then that allows you, and we'll also talk about how those things can impact each type of business and then which one would be best for you. So having business goals is crucial for setting up a budget. If you don't have goals set for your business, you don't really have a good idea of where the money should be going. And then you're kind of spending reactionary instead of proactively. So setting those goals, revenue goals, how much do I want to make this year, allows you to kind of get a guide of how much effort you need to put into each area. So do I need to spend more on marketing than I did last year to make more money? Do I need to attend more networking events? Do I need to attend more, if you sell items, vendor pop-ups? Having those goals allows you to plan for what you need to do, and then also where the money goes, again, because with a budget, you're deciding where your money goes. So if you know running Facebook ads gets you a certain amount of money per year, and you have now a revenue goal of 10% more than you made last year, you have to budget in spending 10% more on marketing than you did the previous year. And then expense goals allows you to plan for upcoming changes. Like if you want to lease a new location, if you want to hire a new employee, if you plan on purchasing something large for your business, like a vehicle, having those things laid out, like, helps you decide, hey, I need this amount of money. Also, things like growth, like expanding into new areas, those things can cost money. Again, leasing a new location, if you have a certain license that you need, like a realtor, and you have to get that license in other states because you want to expand into other states, those things need to be worked into your budget as well. So again, it helps you prioritize your resources and decide where everything needs to go. So with the two types of budget, we have the actual cost method, which is best for businesses who have a year or two of expenses already or have been in business for a year or two. So with that, you will use your historical financial data to predict your future expenses. So if you spend, like you have location and you know your electric bill is higher in the summer than it is in the winter time, those things have to be factored in, and you would use that historical data to be able to work each month's budget into something realistic that could actually be used. And with the percent revenue method, that is generally better for businesses who don't quite have that historical data to go off of. You can use it if you do have historical data, but it's better for businesses who don't, because you can set a goal of, this is how much, again, I intend to bring in this year. But if you don't meet that exact dollar amount, 10% of whatever I bring in goes to marketing. 5% of whatever I bring in goes to paying contractors or things like that. So with that percent revenue, it just makes it easier for you to adjust your budget as the year goes on if you don't have anything to base a budget off of yet. So with creating an actual cost budget, you first want to gather your past financial records, including any income statements, expense reports that you use. If you have like QuickBooks, your balance sheet, if you have any loans that you pay, gather all of that information and then break down your expenses into categories that are fixed, variable, and discretionary. So fixed meaning they're going to be the same amount every year. Things like insurance, if you pay for website hosting, those things generally are any dues or subscriptions. Those things don't generally change month to month. Things like utilities do, marketing, if you're doing pay-per-click marketing, those things are more variable because they change. They can change every month. So those would be your variable expenses that you need to have an idea of. And then discretionary, meaning it's nice to have, but not necessary. So you want to separate those, all your expenses into those three categories, and then review the data to identify any trends, which again, going back to if your electric bill is higher or if your income, if you sell a product that's a good gift and you know you have most of your income coming in December and maybe in January and February, the income kind of slows down after the holidays. You want to be able to see, yes.
Yeah, I have a question for you. You're talking about all this data, expenses and things like that. You know, um, can AI help with this? How do you collect all this data that to use for tracking for budgets and things like that? I know you mentioned accounting systems and stuff like that, but how should people start tracking this information? What's the easiest way to start tracking this information?
So, in my opinion, the easiest way to start tracking this information is with an accounting software like QuickBooks, Xero, Wave. Those generally help if you have a very
Now,
small business.
now are Zero and Wave the free ones? And
Wave does have a free option. Xero is less expensive than QuickBooks, and then QuickBooks is kind of like the most
yeah,
expensive option. So you can use AI to help with it. So if you have any accounting software that you use, a lot of them give you the ability to export that data into a spreadsheet, which you can then put into if you use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI software that you prefer. You can put it in there and just have them give you an overview of what help me create this into a budget, help me identify
okay.
any spending trends, things like that.
What about like, one more question, and I'll get out of your way. What if you go to your bank account and you download the transactions for a month and as a PDF or something like that, and then import that into AI? It seems like AI would be able to analyze that table as well. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here. I'm just trying to get people to understand that you got to start tracking the stuff and how is
Right.
the best way to. Even saying yes, yes. Eve, what does that mean? Yes, it can. You can do it, or what?
Yes, 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 yes. That is a very innovative way to utilize AI. I recently had a conversation with one of my small business owners, and that's what we were talking about. We're using AI for so many things. Let's not limit it to the things that we have to do and that we get
Right.
to actually be knowledgeable about doing. Now, I love that idea. I'm so glad you threw that out.
Yeah, I just because I think what Raquel is talking about is very important.
Yes.
But people are like the data's all over the place, and you're not always your your bank account tracks it because you're spending money. It's particularly if you're using your credit cards and things like that.
Mm.
But so I'm talking about what if you don't have the software yet? You could probably import this stuff into the accounting systems that Raquel just mentioned. I'm gonna put those up. I'll put those in the chat. You said Zero and Wave,
Yeah,
Raquel?
those are the lower cost one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, we want the lower cost ones right now, as you guys are getting started. But I just want to point out how critical it is that you do this budgeting. Because if you're going to be applying for grants and loans and things, you need to know, is it going to fit? Particularly if you're getting a business loan, is it going to fit into your budget? Because there's a loan payment. Okay, yeah, you got that $30,000, but it's probably about $400 or $500 a month to pay for that. If you don't budget for that prior to getting the loan, you could be upside down. So, anyways, Raquel, I'll get out of your way, but I'm gonna look up those accounting systems and I'll put those in. But I did want to make sure you guys understood that AI is something that you can use to help you analyze these numbers and understand what you're spending. So, all right. So I'll look up those, Raquel. I'll get out of your way.
Okay. And yeah, and in that too, also something to be mindful of with using AI for things like that is if you are doing things like commingling your funds or you transferring money into your personal bank account, make sure you know that you need to let AI, whatever you're using, know that's not a business expense. So, where was I? So we're analyzing the spending patterns, and then you can set your budget for that period. So determine the time frame you want to set your budget for, monthly, quarterly, or annually, and set that budget up. To create the budget, I would say for a lot of my clients, I do an annual budget that we review monthly, and that gives you just the ability to change anything you need to change. So once you create the budget, review and adjust it with having a budget that you check monthly, or if you again are smaller, quarterly, if you don't have that many expenses, it keeps you from getting to the end of the year and realizing, oh, I'm this area went way over, or this area was way under, or this budget was never really realistic. So you want to make sure you use frequent checks, frequent reviews to monitor it and make sure it aligns with what your business actually needs. Sometimes we can be very optimistic in the beginning, or we could be a little pessimistic when we're creating our budgets. And as we are looking at them, they're not really aligning with what we need them to. For instance, if you are saying you plan on making a lot less money than you actually start making. If you, oh, I'm only gonna make $50,000 this year in my business, but your business ends up making 100,000, and somehow you spent 95,000, but you don't know where it went because you were only budgeting for that 50,000, and then you start kind of spending on things that are discretionary or that you don't really need. You want to keep monitoring your budget so you can adjust things and make sure the money is going to the right places instead of being spent on things that aren't really necessary because you feel like, oh, it's bringing in more than I anticipated. So it's kind of like free money. So here is an example of what an actual cost budget will look like. I'm bringing in, or I'm planning to bring in $100,000 this year. I'm going to spend 5,000 on supplies. I'm going to spend 4,000 on utilities. So it gives actual numbers. This is the dollar amount I plan to spend in each of these areas. So if I actually spend $11,000 in marketing, I'm over. If I spend $9,000 in marketing, I'm under. And then creating a percent revenue budget is determined by your projected revenue. You would do the same thing. So if you're a brand new business, you're just starting, you don't really have an idea of what your expenses would look like each month. Again, one way to get a list of expenses that you can plan to have is you can look it up. You can utilize AI. Hey, this is my business. This is what I plan to do. Here's a supply list that I need. What are some other expense categories that I need to be planning to spend money in order to run this business effectively? Once you have a list of the expense categories, you want to assign a percentage to each one. So you can do that based off of speaking with an accountant, using an AI service, or just looking it up. I know for a lot of businesses, They have forums, Facebook groups you can join, Reddit things or threads that you can join that will give you other people who are running the same business that you are. And then based off the percentage you assign to each category, you can convert that into a dollar amount. And then it allows you to adjust again for realistic proportions. So as the revenue grows, the percentage will stay the same, but the amount of money that you are able to spend in that category will grow as your revenue grows. And just like with an actual cost budget, you want to review it as needed to make the necessary changes. If your revenue is growing very quickly and you realize this percentage that I have assigned to this particular expense is kind of high, I don't really need my business insurance to be 10% of my revenue anymore because that's a fixed cost. And then you can make sure that you adjust that percentage that you have and reallocate those funds somewhere else. So if, again, here's an example. If your insurance, if you are bringing in $100,000 per year per year with your business, and you have 3% of that for the year budgeted towards insurance, and you bring in $200,000 in like reality, you don't necessarily need now that particular category to grow to 6,000. You don't need twice as much insurance because you're bringing in twice as much money. So you could change that percentage. Does somebody have a question? No.
No, they don't. Somebody was unmuted. I muted them.
Okay. You can change that percentage to 1.5%, keep it at the $3,000 because it's not your insurance cost is not really going to change, and then you can reallocate those funds somewhere else. So in this example, you have 100% of that $100,000 is broken down to what the percent that you are going to spend in each category. And then, of course, you want to make sure that they equal 100. And you convert that into a dollar amount. Some things will grow, like your supplies will probably grow if your revenue grows, so you can keep that the same. But subscriptions, insurance, those things aren't typically going to grow with the revenue. So those are things you can think about adjusting as your revenue grows. So the benefits of having the percent revenue method is it can be used with no historical data, which is great for new businesses. It's flexible again. You can adjust it as each month goes, as your business brings in more income. And then it's a simple calculation. So you don't really have to do a lot of adding and dividing like you would with the actual cost method. You can just kind of assign a realistic percentage and then based off that determine what that dollar amount that you want to go towards it is. And it allows with financial planning so you can anticipate like the cost based off your expected income. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Okay.
I don't see any questions out there. You know, I think it's important, one of the things I want you to put up, Raquel, is or put it in the what do you call it? The chat, your scheduling link, because I think people are going to have questions about everything you talked about. I think you put out what the importance of budgeting is, but I still think people are going to be curious about the software and how to really do it. So if you have your scheduling link, I'd like you to put it uh, into the system.
I can do that.
All right. What do I want to get back to here? Hold on one second. I'm gonna I was working on some others. So let me share my screen again. Hold on. Are you
And that's your
complete with
hobby. I'm not, I can keep going. Do you want me to, or
all
did you?
right. No, keep going. I
Okay.
thought you were asking questions for the end. I was gonna
No.
start tap dancing to finish out the 30 minutes. Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is forecasting your revenue. And one method, again, is two methods of forecasting your revenue. One is analyzing the growth of your revenue from previous years. So again, it's like using that actual cost method where you're using that historical data over the last few years to get an idea of the growth rate of your business from year to year. And then you can use that information to kind of get a good idea of how much income you could expect in the next year. And then another method is a little bit more involved with forecasting. And again, that's for business owners who don't have too much historical information. They're just starting out. You're kind of trying to get an average based on the rates that you sell your service for or the profit margin that you sell whatever item that you make for, and then using that information to get a good idea of how much you could make in that year, and then using that income forecast. So, with a revenue trend analysis, it was using, again, historical information. So, if in 2023 you made $42,000, in 2024 you made $55,000, and in 2025 you made $75,000. You can see from 2023 to 2024, which it has the calculations here at the bottom if you need a better idea of how they're done. It's about a 24% growth rate. And from 2024 to 2025, you have a 26% growth rate. And so you can average about a 25% growth rate, which means 25% growth from 75,000 is about $93,750. So you can use that as your income that you can use to start your budget. Again, it's just forecasting from year to year how much, what's the percent growth rate I have from each year, what's the average over the years of data I have. I can expect to make this amount. It's a conservative number, and then use that information to create your budget. And then again, this is why it's important to review your budget, because if it ends up being way more than 93,000, you want to adjust your budget to reflect that. And then with the sales trend analysis, you are basically using a guesstimate of, if I sell 350 of whatever service or units that I'm making, and it's at $120 per service or unit that I'm making, I could expect to make $42,000 in that year. If you have historical data and you know from year to year you have an increase in sales of a specific amount, you could again use that average of those two, or of the growth that you have seen historically, to kind of get an amount that you expect to sell in the new year. But you can also, if you don't have any of that information, you can just make a plan to, I'm going to do my best to sell 660 services to clients or units to clients. And here's how I'm going to price them. And here's how much I can expect to make. You can account for things like inflation. So if you only have 1 year of data and last year you sold it at $165 per unit, but this year, due to inflation, costs are going to go up. So the price of what you sell, or the service that you provide with your business is going to have to go up. You can adjust for that change in price over the years that you have. But again, if you don't have that, you can basically look just to this column or this column to see if I sell this amount at this price, this is how much revenue I'm going to bring in, and then use that revenue for your budget and be realistic in what you can sell. So don't short yourself in what you can do, but also be realistic in what, as a first time business owner, a lot of times you have still a full time or part time job that you're working to be able to have the income to get your business off the ground. So you want to adjust for or plan accordingly using that information and be realistic so that you have a realistic budget to go based on. And here's those calculations done in depth if you need to look them over. So that it shows you how to get that amount. So if you see a 25% increase, you would do 125 times 0.25. That's an extra, or 120 times 0.25. That's extra $30. So then you'd be selling your item for an extra $30. But a lot of those things, you can find like a table, a template. Again, if you have an accountant, you can have them assist you with it. If you have ChatGPT, Claude, think Copilot, those things, and you say, here's how much I want to increase my services by, or here's how many units I want to sell. A lot of times you say, give me a plan to help me sell this many, or how would this look like? How many would I have to sell per month to be able to get to this revenue? So there's a lot of tools that can help you do it on your own. And then once your business gets bigger and you start having less time to put into things like that, you can start to outsource the services. But until you get to that point, there's, again, a lot of not necessarily free. I know for me personally, I pay for $20 a month for ChatGPT because I put a lot of stuff in there.
Yes. There's a question, Robert.
Yes. Thank you for this, and sorry, I'm a little late coming. I had another meeting, but I did want to get here. This is great. My question is, if I own like a storefront or something like that, where I have a lot of different units to sell,
Mhm.
do you think it's better to put them in categories and do this for each category, or do them individually, the items that are sold, or how would I approach that?
So I would say it is better to put it into categories because if you sell like 100 different things, it's kind of hard to keep track of each individual item and how much it would sell for. So I would say put it into categories and then get an average of each category. So if you sell like body care and you have lotions or body oils or things like that, you would can have the lotions be a category, body oils be a category, and even if they sell for different prices, just take an average of those prices to make it easier to keep track of for you. You don't want to make things too hard on yourself. So I think, yeah, categories and an average in price would make things easier for you.
That makes sense. Thank you.
No problem.
I don't have any more questions. You keep going.
Okay. So, like we were talking about before, here's some budgeting apps that you can use. You Need a Budget it allows you to connect. It's like for your phone, but it allows you to connect your bank accounts to it, and then you set the budget, and it'll start to pull your expenses in and show you where you are with your budget. A lot of people use it for personal budgets and their personal finances. But if you have a business bank account, which if you have a business, you should have a business bank account, you can connect that bank account to this app, and then it will, as you spend money, it will pre-categorize it for you. Another one that's not up here that I personally use for my personal finances and business is outside of QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks for my business to produce financials because a lot of times if you want a business loan or you're trying to get funding and they ask for things like a profit and loss, balance sheet, those are very easy to pull from QuickBooks. It is expensive and it is kind of like a learning curve. It can be pretty complicated if you don't have the background to be able to use it, but I use it for my QuickBooks for my business, but on my phone, I have an app called Monarch, which is very similar to You Need a Budget, where it will keep track of, I have my personal cards on there and I have my business cards on there. And it kind of gives you like a snapshot, if you can see in this picture here, of where you are monthly. And it gives you a little number to the side of whether it's pink or, yeah, pink if you're over budget, green if you're under budget. And I just have a category for my business expenses so I can keep a quick eye on those, and then a category for my personal expenses. And it's not as in depth as it would be on QuickBooks, but it just kind of gives you a quick look into it. Wave, they have a free option that allows you to track your monthly expenses, and Credit Karma or Mint also allows you, it's easy, it can be on your phone. It allows you to see like a quick overview of how you're spending, where your spending is going, what everything looks like. With things like QuickBooks and Xero, those are beneficial because, again, if it gives you a better breakdown of where your expenses are going, it is also the financials that are going to be used to prepare your tax return. They're going to be the financials that are used if you are needing like a valuation of your business to sell it. They're going to be the financials that are used if you want to get any type of loan or any type of funding for your business. So you want to, as you grow, look into like a more robust accounting software, or start to look for an accountant or bookkeeper that can help you put the financials that you need together. But as you're starting out, things, again, You Need a Budget, Wave, Monarch, what I personally use, those will help you just get a kind of a snapshot every day if you're thinking, where am I at in this area? Or you just got, if it's a certain day, all of your business expenses come out, all of your subscriptions come out, and you want to see where you stand, how much you've spent so far. Those apps are good to kind of keep you in track day to day. And then QuickBooks or Xero would be more beneficial month to month. And here is a Google Sheet, which is another way you can keep track of your budget. And I'll put this link in the chat. Once I find, oh, here we go. So with this Google Sheet, once you get in it, if you go here to File, Make a Copy, it'll allow you to make a copy of it yourself, and then you can change the name to whatever you want to change the name of your business, 12-month business budget. And it's set up in a way for you to see your budget, what you decide to spend month to month versus what you actually spent each month, and then it'll give you quarterly totals at the end, and then here also a yearly total. And just to show you how to use it. If you, for your insurance, you budgeted $750 and for some reason it cost $850, it will show you the difference. You're over budget. It's red, so it lets you know instantly how much you're over budget. And then if it is red, it's, that is because you're over budget. But if the next month you have $750 budgeted and it only ends up being $450, it will show you have a surplus, it's green, and how much is it? It's $300. And then if again the next month for some reason you're over, but for that quarter you're in the green, it'll show you how much you spent per quarter, what your budget was, and then are you over or under? And it does the same with your revenue, except it's opposite. So if you are planning to make $1,400 in January, but you only make $1,195, it'll say it's red because you're under what you anticipated making. But the next month you're over, and then the next month you're over. It'll be green for when you make more money than you budgeted for, and then red for if you make less money than you budgeted for. And everybody should have access to it. But if you don't have access to it, a lot of times it gives you like
It
a
says
little,
restricted. That's what I was about to say. You can't,
maybe.
yeah, give permission.
With the link.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Well, if you guys try again, it does have like a thing where you can request access and it'll come to me and I'll give you access to it. But if you can't get it right now, but it's free to use, obviously, and hopefully it's helpful for you and your business. Just again, go to File, make a copy, and then it'll make you a copy of it for yourself that you can edit. And here's just some of the services I offer. Bookkeeping, tax preparation, and other services that we offer. And now here is the pause for questions at the end. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't see any out there. This is great information though.
I had my hand raised. I did have
Oh, you do? Okay, go ahead, Martha. Sorry about that. I see
That's
Robert
okay.
had his hand raised. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you did mention the phone one on the phone app, and you mentioned another one that you use.
Mhm.
I didn't see that one.
You
mentioned
let me
two.
give you, yeah. I can put a link to it. So the one I
Now,
use is, go ahead.
I put Monarch, I put
Yes.
that in the chat.
So it's Monarch. I just wanted to make sure that was the
Yeah.
one that you were talking about.
Th-
Okay. I have that one. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yes. So that's the one I use personally. And I recently got it. I enjoy it. So, and here is
Robert, go ahead.
These are two questions. One, what is it that you like about Monarch? Yeah, what is it that you like about Monarch?
So personally, what I like about Monarch is it's really easy to read and it helps my husband who doesn't really, he's not in accounting. It allows him to see where we are with everything. So you can add another person to it. So it gives him kind of access on his phone too. So he can see where we are with the groceries. He can see where we are with like kids' activities that we spend money on. It's very easy to read for somebody who that might not be their main knowledgeable area.
Yeah.
So I like it for that. That's what I use it for. And I also add my business expenses in there to it lets you break it up by category. So we have like a kids category in there, we have a business category in there, and then we have like day-to-day expenses in there. And it also lets you set up rules for the transactions that comes in. Like in QuickBooks, you can say every time you see Netflix, put it to subscriptions. Every time you see Amazon, put it to shopping. So it lets you set those rules up so it will learn what you do each month. It just doesn't do like financials or anything like that. So we still use QuickBooks for our business, but again, it's easy to have people in your house who might not be familiar with staying on top of financials, or they just don't have to. It lets them see that. And it also lets me show my kids stuff. Like if my daughter's asking for Chick-fil-A, I can be like, "Do you see how much we spent on fast food this month?" No, no Chick-fil-A today.
That's
And it
good.
pulls directly from your bank accounts and your credit
Yes.
cards.
Yes. So you attach your bank accounts and credit cards at the beginning, and then it pulls it in every month.
Nice.
There
The
is-
the second question I have is um, being an accountant of small businesses, what are the biggest mistakes that you see small businesses make that if you could get them beforehand and say, hey, don't do this, what advice would you give them?
So one is commingling of funds. So a lot of times when you're a small business, you have to use those funds like for your everyday life. It makes sense. You might not be big enough for something like an S corp where you're paying yourself a W-2, and you need to use the money from your business to live. A lot of times, I see a lot of clients will swipe that business card for personal things when it's best to transfer the money out of your business account into your personal account and use the funds there. It's there's no, and again, a lot of times clients will be like, "Well, will I get in trouble because I'm pulling so much money out of my business account?" No, you won't get in trouble for pulling money out of your business account, but you will get in trouble if for some reason the IRS wants you to justify certain funds, like, is this necessary for your business? And you're like, well, this part is business, but this part is personal. Once you start to get in that area and you are mixing them together, then you kind of leave yourself to, well, how do I know you needed that for your business? How do I know that's not personal too? It kind of and if you have an LLC, to protect yourself from like your personal assets getting seized or anything, if you were ever get sued, once you start mixing your personal expenses with your business expenses, it kind of does away with the protection that an LLC gives you. So that's the number one thing. The second thing is when a lot of clients decide, I'm going to do my bookkeeping myself, and they will not reconcile their bank accounts every month. So at the end of every month, if you decide to go with like QuickBooks or Xero, it allows you to make sure that the money they're showing that you have in your bank account matches what your bank statement says, to make sure everything pulled in correctly and everything was categorized correctly. I see a lot of business owners doing their bookkeeping themselves, and it's been years since they reconciled what their bank statement says to what is in their accounting software. And then when you go in to do it, it doesn't match, things are wrong, expenses are missing. So if you do decide to take that route yourself, make sure you reconcile your bank accounts every month. Make sure you're not mixing your expenses. And finally, make sure you're accounting for loans, um, and credit card payments. So those things don't show up on your profit and loss or what's considered your income statement, which shows your income and expenses. Things like loans don't show up there. They show up on a different financial statement called your balance sheet. So people will think, oh, this says my business is profitable. My business made X amount of money this year. And technically it is, but you can still be operating with less cash flow because you're paying back a loan that you're not accounting for. You're paying down a credit card that you're not accounting for. And those payments don't go towards expenses. They go towards paying down your debt that shows up somewhere different.
All right.
That was helpful.
Any
Thank you
more?
so much.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions? Raquel, can you put your scheduling link in there? I don't know if I asked you to do
Yes.
that. All
It's right
right.
there at the bottom.
Okay. Oh, it is. Okay, gotcha. So everybody, Raquel's one of our business coaches, our subject matter expert. So if you want to meet with her and dig deeper into budgeting, use her link there so you can meet with her one-on-one. I'm sure a lot of you have questions.
I got
So you have
kicked out. I didn't get the link. Can you post it again for me, please?
Yes.
you, you know what, Raquel? Post it when you posted the one just before you post in panelists. I'm gonna post it
Okay.
to everybody. I'll do that. I'll do it. Post it to everyone. Here we go. So so I just reposted Raquel's link. So click on that and you can schedule a session with her. And so yeah, just so I put the link in there. So click on it, schedule a session with her. Who's doing that? Oh, is that you, Raquel? No.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
making sure.
okay. Yeah, it works. It works. All right. Any more questions for Raquel? So I'm going to share my screen again, and Raquel, you can stop sharing. And I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you something that I do pretty much in the mornings. For screen two. I start out my day sometimes putting in the small business in Atlanta, prompt inside of ChatGPT and look at this one is about FIFA. These are new funding opportunities. These are grants eligible downtown Casbury Hill. These are all Invest Atlanta loan grants. These are grants and funding for Invest Atlanta. So start really using ChatGPT. You can do a deep search. You can do all kind of things, but you said a lot about the World Cup and things like that. But start really using ChatGPT to pull your information for finding out what's going on for small business. I'm gonna stop sharing that. I got one more thing to share. And hold on one second. Oh, down here. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again. Upcoming topics. So next week, Eve is on here. We're going to be talking about understanding your business taxes. I said boo, but I really shouldn't have done that because it is very important. It's just these are certain things we don't want to really deal with. But she's going to be here next week to talk about the importance of it, how to prepare for it, and, going to a tax accountant or somebody that can help you with your taxes. Raquel, you do that as well too. Do you do taxes? Okay. So we have two people that understand taxes. So make sure a lot of you may sleep on this whole tax thing, but it will catch up to you. Okay. So it's not like if you don't file, hey, nobody knows what you're doing. Because particularly it catches up to you because if you're working for people and they're paying you as a contractor, they're going to send you a 1099. And that means they're reporting to the IRS that they paid you. But if you don't report to the IRS, I got paid and this is what I did with it, that's the business tax you'll learn next week. That's how they're going to find you. And I really feel that it's important. So pay attention to these topics. Also, too, on the 20th, we're doing Meet the Money. You need to be there. I want you to come to our event. We're going to see if we can let people come to our event for free that Friday. But I would advise you $35 to get into the whole expo. You get a discount if you use the UL it's cold down here. But this is one of those times where you can go, you can see other products and vendors, you can see how people are selling their wares, you can meet people. It's great for networking. I think it's very important because a lot of us after COVID don't get out. We do everything on Zoom. This is an in-person event. I think you need to be there. Be there Friday to learn from us, and but Saturday and Sunday there's some great things going on. Um, oh shit, I got a 10 o'clock. But anyways, I'm sorry. But anyways, any questions before I let you guys go?
Great information. Thank you for the
You're very
information.
welcome.
Thanks,
And
Mark.
next week,
Mhm.
next week, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody to understand about business taxes because this is nothing to play with. So let's get
Okay.
2026 started out right. And okay, Martha, I'll give you a call.
Thank you.
I have a coaching session here, but I'll give you a call. All right.
Thank you.
Start,
Mhm.
thank you, everyone. Talk to you guys later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey there, how you doing? You know what? I just got off a Zoom session, and for some reason, it's not letting me. Let's see if it does it now. I just got off a Zoom session. For some reason, I can't turn my camera on. So just sit tight. I'm going to log out and log back into this, okay? Oh, you bring me anything to eat today?